10 hidden horror movie gems of this decade that no one's talking about. Horror movies have been a constant amusement for the audiences ever since they broke into the mainstream films of the early 1970s. Although there are some classics prior to that as well, it was this era that made horror flicks a staple for the masses. We often speak very highly of the horror classics from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Many, however, ignore the fact that even the present decade has provided us with some horror gems. In this video, we give you some of the hidden horror classics of this era that might not be the most popular, but are sure to give you the creeps. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Hidden 2015. A dangerous outbreak has affected an American city, causing the army to quarantine the area and bomb the region. Ray, Claire, and their young daughter have been living in a bomb shelter ever since then and managed to survive some strange monsters lurking above them. They stay in the confinement, abiding by some rules to stay safe from those creatures. However, one night, an attempt to kill a rat accidentally starts off a minor fire that causes enough smoke for the creatures to identify their hiding place. What will become of this small family once they are exposed to the monsters? This is a psychological horror at its best, as the makers pull off a suspenseful script effortlessly. Instead of bulking up on gore and violence, the narrative focuses more on a slow build-up that keeps you tensed as you watch the events unfold. The central characters are very believable in their roles, and actors essayed the ordeal of surviving in a claustrophobic post-apocalyptic environment. Alexander Skarsgård from the series True Blood and the other actors have performed out of their skin, and you wouldn't notice the absence of special effect gimmicks thanks to their soulful acting. The twists and turns will leave you shell-shocked, and the final 30 minutes are a treat after the thrilling wait. Overall, it is a thought-provoking movie that will make you question in the end as to who the real monsters are. Spring 2014. A young American man named Russell is grieving over the loss of his mother, and to make matters worse, he also loses his job. He travels to Italy on the advice of his friend to clear his mind, and while traveling, he comes across a flirtatious girl, Louise. When their interactions turn serious, a deep, dark secret is about to be revealed. Louise may not be the simple girl that he thinks her to be, and their relationship would be put to the harshest of tests. This is a fine instance of intelligent filmmaking where elements of morality, religion, philosophy, and body horror are clubbed together to form a masterpiece. The horror-romance combination has often worked wonders, and it does so yet again. There are some dark and horrifying moments in the movie, but the makers have handled it with elegance instead of turning it into a slick Hollywood-style gore-fest. The director duo of Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson impressed with their debut feature Resolution, and they have certainly kept up the good work. The lead actors Lou Taylor Pucci and Nadia Hilker have delivered with some commendable performances as well. The plot is quickly introduced, and once established, it takes you for a creepy ride with some emotional moments, such as when Russell learns the secret about his girlfriend. It is a movie that will take you by surprise with a fascinating and unique take on a somewhat conventional horror story.
Too slow.
Green Room 2016. A punk rock band called The Ain't Rights becomes an unwilling witness to a murder by a terrifying gang of skinheads. The gang wants to ensure that all evidence that points to them are eliminated, and the band stands as the pivotal witness. Their musical tour soon turns into a nightmare as they are forced to fight for survival as the gang hunts them down. But escaping alive wouldn't be easy with such menacing murderers looking for them. The director, Jeremy Saulnier, responsible for the smashing hit Blue Ruin, weaves his magic one more time in this enjoyable thriller. He ensures that you get stressed out while watching this, anticipating the fate of the protagonists. The actors have done a fantastic job, especially the late Anton Yelchin, whose untimely demise is still being mourned by the fans. Green Room is certainly not for the faint-hearted and has its share of violence and brutality. There are some disturbing moments, such as when you see a body being dragged by a knife stuck in its head. Jeremy has drawn up some complicated characters who have their own shortcomings and flaws. They add flavor to the tension-filled situations that crop up frequently. The cinematography steals the show with some beautiful and insightful shots that serve the story perfectly. This movie will provide you the perfect respite from the high-tech glossy flicks that you usually see. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil 2010 Horror Comedy. Dale and Tucker are two lovable hillbillies who head to their mountain cabin for a vacation. They just want to have a good time while doing some fishing and drinking beer. However, fate has some other things in store for them when a group of college students has mistaken them for chainsaw-wielding killers. Their fun vacation takes a violent turn when these students make a random assumption from their appearance and act on it. A horror comedy is a tough nut to crack because it requires the perfect balance to entertain the fans. This movie is certainly a crowd pleaser with a promising premise that evolves into some hilarious circumstances. The idea is fresh and inventive, while the narrative ensures that you would be laughing hard all through the movie. It is basically a sequence of a comedy of errors that result in some gruesome deaths. Even the manner of the deaths will leave you in splits, as they are purposely over the top. The chainsaw scene in particular is a laugh riot, and so is the moment when they are explaining the situation to the police. This movie got a tremendous response at the Seattle International Film Festival, where the audiences absolutely loved it. Despite being a cult classic, the lack of proper promotion has led this to be relatively unknown among the horror fans. If you want to laugh till you are gasping for breath, go for this movie and have a fun time. Maniac 2012. Frank is the owner of a mannequin store and had a troubled childhood where he was abused by his mother. This has turned him into a psychopath serial killer with a fetish for scalps. A young artist, Anna, borrows some mannequins for an exhibition, and through their interactions, their friendship develops. However, when Anna's agent is murdered, she suspects that Frank might be the serial killer on the hunt. The problem is that her realization comes a bit too late when Frank is already in her apartment. It is not often that a remake exceeds the original, but this movie has outdone its predecessor in terms of the gripping suspense that drives the plot. A movie about serial killing is bound to involve a lot of violence, and this film has a bit too much gore with some bloody murders. The central character, Frank, is a weirdo loner who spends time restoring antiques and stalks his victims at night, scalping them just for the kick of it. His disturbing frame of mind and twisted psychology will get to you, and Elijah Wood has done a terrific job with such a complex role. He had previously played a serial killer in the movie Sin City, and he brings in all the experience to ace the part. The eerie soundtrack nails the mood throughout the movie, and despite the nasty violence, you can tell that the movie has more to it. As long as you can handle some stomach-churning moments, you are good to go in terms of enjoying this classic horror thriller. The Crazies 2010. A plane crash releases some deadly toxins in a small farming town that turns the victims into violent psychopaths. The sheriff and his deputy notice the strange murderous acts, and soon the army seals off the town and quarantines all inhabitants in concentration camps. The sheriff, along with his wife, deputy, and another man, manage to escape the confinement and investigate the matter. With the army hunting down the escapees and the Crazies also being a threat, they try to breach the containment and reach the next town. This is a remake of a little-known George Romero's classic way back in 1973. While the original movie was exceptionally good, this one too is an impressive attempt. The makers waste no time in the build-up to the first outbreak of violent insanity. Then onwards, the movie packs heavily in terms of scary moments and some dark humor. The infected people react differently to the toxin, and their violent acts would leave you cringing in your seats. The scene where a man traps his wife and son in their home and then burns it down will send shivers down your spine. sheriff, played by Timothy Olyphant, is a realistic hero, unlike the superhuman protagonists in such movies who escape without a scratch. There are plenty of brutal killings in this terrifying movie that also highlight the creepy moments appropriately, such as the scene in the car crash where every slap of the windscreen will make you sit up in anticipation. We don't know about you, but the experience of being in a lockdown due to coronavirus has made this movie all the creepier for us. How long before one sudden event turns fiction into reality? The Woman 1, 2011. The last surviving member of a cannibalistic violent clan is captured by a successful lawyer named Chris during one of his hunting trips. The misogynistic lawyer is drawn to the naked beast-like human and tries to discipline and tame her. But a flesh-eating human is not fit for the civilized environment, and Chris soon finds out that his dominance means nothing to this woman. When the monster retaliates, his dysfunctional family will have a tough time surviving her fury. This movie has won us over with its remarkable concept. The plot takes you through the intricate journey of a dysfunctional family through a disturbing narrative. The character of the lawyer is a great example of how we often have a wolf in sheep's clothing in society. It is disgusting to watch how he chains up the clan member in his basement and is almost symbolic of how he treats women in general. Sean Bridgers has outdone himself like a marvelous performance, and he is well supported by the other actors like Angela Bettis and Pollyanna McIntosh. The Woman is a powerful movie that shows patriarchy and feminism in their extremes, and director Lucky McKee provides the audience with what they need to see rather than what they want to see. There are some violent moments, but they aren't overly glorified. The last act that erupts in bloody violence will make you sit up straight in shock, but it also has an emotional side to it. In short, if unique psycho thrillers interest you, The Woman would be a thought-provoking experience for you. Southbound 2015. Southbound is an anthology horror flick that clubs together 5 interlocking tales involving some weary travelers on a desolate stretch of desert highway. The group includes 2 men running from their past, a brother searching for his long-lost sister, a band going for a gig, a family on vacation, and a man who is struggling to get home. They are forced to confront their worst fears as their darkest secrets come back to haunt them. The open road will be witness to their struggle for survival and their terrible experiences. An anthology series is not the easiest to put together, and credit must go to the team of directors involved with the stories. This is a movie that is best left unexplained, just like Stephen King had once famously remarked that nightmares exist outside of logic and there's little fun in the explanations. The plot is actually set in hell that is symbolized by a highway, and it introduces some fascinating characters who are brought to face the consequences for their actions. The clever use of practical and realistic shooting locations adds to the ambience of the film. Do not let the shaky special effects mislead you into thinking of this as an old-fashioned movie. Among the stories, The Way and The Accident stand out for being absolutely out of the world with their creepy narratives. The actors have done a decent job as well, and this film is set to mess with your mind through gory and scary moments. Kill List 2011. 2 former soldiers, Gal and Jay, have turned hitman to earn some easy money. However, Jay is scarred from a mission that went terribly wrong in Kiev. As they take up a new assignment, their client seems a lot more mysterious than usual. Even their targets are weird, and they seem to thank them right before the assassinations. Soon they find themselves taking on a cult that has some strange motive. Jay finds himself in the heart of darkness with creepy cultists looking for some sadistic pleasure. This is a movie that will leave you baffled and horrified at the same time. We must also clarify that it is not a good choice if you cannot handle a significant dose of gore. The transition of the plot from a crime story to a disturbing dark world is simply amazing. The British horror film will be remembered for times to come for layering suspense with discomfort so masterfully. With the perfect cinematography and some soulful acting by Neil Maskell, Mianna Buring, and Michael Smiley, it becomes a wonderful experience. As you watch a ritual taking a horrific form, you are bound to reach for the light switch for some comfort. These scenes with the masked cultists carrying out some bizarre activities are creepy even for the bravest souls. It will remind you of The Wicker Man, but with extreme gore and an unbelievable twist in the end. Juan of the Dead 2011. With some disturbing entries, we thought of ending this video on a lighter note. This movie is a funny take on a zombie apocalypse. The protagonist Juan and his friend Lazaro are trying to connect with their daughter and son respectively. In the meantime, they notice that the locals are acting crazy and turning into murderous zombies. When the local government terms these zombies as rebels revolting against their rule, Juan starts a zombie killing business to make some profit in the chaos. But they soon discover that their lives are at stake. We are not really accustomed to many Cuban movies, but this one certainly makes a good impression. It is more of a Cuban equivalent to the movie Shaun of the Dead, and the story blends humor and the horror of zombies beautifully. The bits of political satire thrown in add to the fun quotient of this movie. The lead actor Alexis Diaz de Villegas will impress you 5 minutes into the movie, and the others are also praiseworthy. This movie also brings some social commentary that makes for some hilarious moments, such as when Juan is asked to kill a cow, but he refuses, stating that it is too dangerous. It sheds light on how killing a cow is a huge crime in Cuba, besides making you tear up with laughter. The CGI effects are rather impressive for a movie of moderate budget, and with so much entertainment packed together, it would be a pity to miss out on this laugh riot. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.